Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are fit and fine. So students, today we will discuss our chapter sense organs. Students, do you know how many sense organs are there in our body? There are total 5 sense organs in our body. And what are these sense organs? The sense organs are the organs which are present in our body that enables us to be aware of the conditions of the external as well as internal environment. Means by which we come to know about the conditions of our external as well as internal environment. And students, you know very well that there are 5 sense organs in our body like eyes, ears, tongue, nose and skin. And all these organs, they are sensitive to different sensations. Just like eyes they are sensitive to light, ears they are sensitive to sound, tongue taste, nose smell and skin touch. And there are also some other senses of balance, body movements, hunger, thirst and pain also in our body. Now all these sense organs, actually in these sense organs there are some special cells which are known as the sensory cells, and actually these sensory cells which are located in our sense organs, they are sensitive to the different sensations. So that's why these sensory cells, they are known as the receptors. And there are mainly 5 types of receptors present in our body. First is known as the mechanoreceptors, then chemoreceptors, then photoreceptors, then thermoreceptors and phonoreceptors. Now students, we will discuss with the main sense organ of our body, which is the eyes. Main means all organs, they are the special organs, sense organs, and but here we discuss the eyes. Now eyes, they are located in deep sockets on the front side of the head. And these deep sockets, they are also known as the orbits. Each eye, it is in the form of a ball and can be rotated with the help of 6 muscles. Now eyelids, the eyelids, they are the upper and lower movable parts of the eyes, and the main function of our eyelids, it is to shut out light. And also there are eyelashes which are attached with our eyelids, and these eyelids, they prevent falling of larger particles into the eyes. Now students, we discuss about eyebrows. Eyebrows, they are virtually not a part of the eye, but they have a special protective function. Means they prevent the raindrops or other the trickling perspiration from getting into the eyes. Now students, there are another tear glands, and these tear glands, they are also known as the lacrimal glands. And these lacrimal glands, they are located at the upper sideward portion of the orbit. And there are total 6 to 12 ducts of the lacrimal glands, and all these ducts, they pour the secretion over the front surface of our face in the form of tears. Now movement of the eyelids. The main function of the movement of the eyelids, it is to spread the liquid in the eye, and this liquid, it mainly serves as a lubricant of the eye. The second function of the tears is that it also keeps the front surface of the eye clean by washing away dust particles. And third function is that these tears, they are having a special enzyme which is known as a lysozyme, and this lysozyme enzyme, it kills the germs if any present in the eye. And in this way, this lysozyme, it is having an antiseptic property. Now the tear ducts, they drain of the liquid into a sac. Now students, you can see that these tear glands, they are situated at the side wide of the our eyes. And these tear ducts, this is the tear lacrimal sac, and this is the tear duct. Now this tear duct, they drain of the liquid into this lacrimal sac. and this lacrimal sac, it is again attached to a nasolacrimal duct, and when this secretion of the tear glands, it is put into this tear sac, lacrimal sac, and when it is now it is conveyed to the nasolacrimal duct, then from this nasolacrimal duct we can feel that whatever, if we put any drop of any that medicine, eye drops, if we put in the eye, then we can feel the taste of that eye drop even in our nose, because of this nasolacrimal duct, because it is attached to our lacrimal sac. So in this way, these tear glands, they pour out a lot of liquid which water the eyes or overflows as tears. Then students, you may shed tears not only in grief but also in extreme joy. So it is about the tear glands. Now students, we will discuss the conjunctiva. Now what is conjunctiva? It is a thin membrane covering the entire front part of the eye. So here you can see that it is the outer membrane of the eye, and it is the outer membrane, thin entire front part of the eye. And over the cornea, this conjunctiva, it is reduced to a single layer of transparent epithelium. Means here over the cornea it becomes transparent here. Sometimes students, we have heard about a disease conjunctivitis. Now what is this disease conjunctivitis? It is a disease in which this outermost layer, it becomes red due to a viral infection. So in this way it is known as the conjunctivitis. Now students, we will learn about the structure of the eyeball. Now our eyeball, it is composed of mainly 3 concentric layers. Here you can see there are 3 concentric layers. The outer layer, which is here grayish in color, it is sclerotic layer. The middle one, it is called the choroid layer, and the inner one, yellow color, it is known as the retinal layer. Now first is the sclerotic layer. This sclerotic layer, it is made of tough fibrous tissue, and this tough fibrous tissue is white in color. So the front white portion of our eye, here you can see the front white portion of the eye, it is actually the sclerotic layer. And this sclerotic layer, it is visible through the conjunctiva, because this conjunctiva, it is transparent. So the sclerotic layer here, it is visible through the conjunctiva. Now this sclerotic layer here, then you can see that it is bulging out, and then it also become transparent here in the front razor where the conjunctiva is present. Here the sclerotic layer, it also becomes transparent here, and it covers the colored part of the eye, and this part, it is known as the cornea. This part at the front of the eye, this sclerotic layer, it is known as the cornea, where it becomes transparent. Now sometimes this cornea portion, because this cornea portion, it covers the colored part of the eye. Now students, sometimes you have seen that this colored portion, sometimes it changing to white color, and white color means then it becomes opaque here, and when it becomes opaque, then it becomes non-functional. So it will be a problem of the eye. So in such cases, this defective cornea, it can be replaced by a healthy cornea from a donated eye. Now students, we will learn about the second layer of the eye, that is the choroid layer. Now in this layer, the blood vessels, they are present, and these blood vessels, they give nourishment to our eye. Now this choroid layer, it contains a dark black pigment which is known as the melanin, and the main function of this melanin pigment which is present in this layer, it is to prevent light rays from reflecting and scattering inside the eyes. Means when the light rays, they get entered through this part in our eyes, then the main function of this pigment, it is to prevent the scattering of the light rays in the inside of the eye. Then in front of the eye, this choroid layer, it becomes somewhat expand, and when it becomes somewhat expand, then it is known as the ciliary body. This is the ciliary body. And this ciliary body, it contains some ciliary muscles. Then the function of these ciliary muscles which are present in this ciliary body, it is to alter the shape of the lens for seeing the different objects. Now the next part it is the iris. This iris, it is the colored part of the eye, and it is also an extension of the choroid. Now students, here you can see that this is the choroid layer, and this choroid layer here somewhat it gets expand, and it is known as the ciliary body. And then this ciliary body again, it from this portion of ciliary body again this choroid layer, it gets expanded somewhat, it gets elongated somewhat, and it forms a portion which is known as the iris. And this iris, it partially covers the lens. Partially covers the lens means here you can see that some part of the lens here it is covered by this iris, some part of the lens here it is covered by iris, and in the middle a opening it is left. So this circular opening in the middle or at the center, it is known as the pupil. And the brown, black or blue color of the eye, it is actually the color of this iris. So this iris, it contains the radial muscles also, and it contains the circular muscles also. The radial main function of the radial muscles, it is to widen this pupil, and the circular muscles, it is to constrict this pupil. Why this pupil it gets widened and why it gets constricted? It gets widened and constricted in order to regulate the amount of the eye which enters from outside in the inside of the eye. So in this way, if students, if you throw the torchlight in your eyes, then you can easily see, by seeing in a mirror, you can easily see the dilation and constriction of this pupil. If less light it is put into our eyes, then this pupil it gets widened, pupil gets dilated, and if more light it gets entered in our eyes, then our pupil it gets constricted. So in this way, this pupil it regulates the amount of light in our eyes. Then the pattern and arrangement of the iris muscles, it is unique for every individual. So therefore, this arrangement of iris muscles, it is also a source of an individual's identification. Now students, we will discuss the third layer of our eye, that is the retina. This retina, it is the innermost layer of our eye, and it is sensitive to light. In the retina, two types of cells they are present. One is known as the rod cells, second one is known as the cone cells. Rod cells, they are actually sensitive to dim light, means they work in dim light and they do not respond to color. And these rod cells, they contain a pigment which is known as the rhodopsin, and this rhodopsin pigment, it is also known as the visual purple pigment. And these rod cells, they are distributed throughout the retina. And another cells which are called the cone cells, they are sensitive to bright light, means they work in bright light, and they are responsible for color vision. Now these cone cells, they contain a pigment which is known as the iodopsin, and the cone cells, they are mostly confined to the yellow spot, means maximum number of cone cells it is found in the yellow spot. So that's why yellow spot, it is known as the area of best vision. Now this yellow spot, it is also known as the macula lutea, and it is simply called yellow spot or fovea centralis, and it lies at the back of the eye. It is the location of the yellow spot. It lies at the back of the eye, almost at the center of the horizontal axis of the eyeball. Here students, you can see that it is the yellow spot, and it is the back portion of the eye, so it lies at the back of the eye at the horizontal axis of the eye. Now students, you can see, I have already told you that this yellow spot, it contains the maximum number of sensory cells, and particularly the cone cells. So as a result, this is the region of the best vision. So question is, Why this yellow spot? It is known as the region of brightest vision or best vision, because yellow spot contains a maximum number of cone cells which are sensitive to colored vision or light. So that's why it is known as the area of the best vision. Now students, we will discuss blind spot. Now this blind spot means there are only rod cells. There are only rod cells present, and that's why it is known as the area of no vision. And this is a point at which the nerve fibers from all the sensory cells of the retina. Actually, the rod cells, they are distributed throughout the retina. But blind spot means no sensory cells are present here. So that's why it is known as the area of no vision. And it is the point at which all the nerve fibers from all the sensory cells of the retina, means throughout the retina, the nerve cells, they are present, the sensory cells, they are present. So the nerve fibers from all the sensory cells, they come to this point and converge at this point. Converge means they get collected at this point and then bundled together to leave the eyeball in the form of the optic nerve. So here you can see students that this is the blind spot. This is the blind spot, and the nerve fibers from all the sensory cells, they come here and reach here, and then they get converged at a point, and then they bundle together and leave the eyeball in the form of optic nerve. Now students, we will discuss the next part of the eye, which is called lens. Now lens, it is a transparent biconvex crystalline body which is located just behind the pupil. Here you can see that here pupil it is present, and it is present, this lens, it is present behind the pupil. And this lens, it contains transparent lens fibers. Lens fibers means these are the long thin cells which are not having any nuclei. And this lens, it is held in position with the help of suspensory ligaments. Here you can see students in this diagram that this is the lens, and it is held in position with the help of these two suspensory ligaments. And these suspensory ligaments, they are attached to this ciliary body. The ciliary body, it lies at the junction of the choroid and iris. And the ciliary body, it contains muscles, and these muscles, they help in the contraction and relaxation, which on contraction. The ciliary muscles, when they get contracted or when they get relaxed, then they can change the shape of the lens. And the shape of the lens, it is changing in order to view objects at different distances. Now students, we will discuss about the two chambers of the lens. There are two chambers of this, not lens, two chambers of the eye. Their whole eyeball, it is distributed into two chambers. One is known as the aqueous chamber, another one is known as the vitreous chamber. This aqueous chamber, it is the front part of the eye, means front chamber of the eye, which is situated between lens and cornea. And this aqueous chamber, it is filled with the watery fluid, watery liquid, which is known as the aqueous humor. And this aqueous humor, it is having two functions. First, it keeps the lens moist and protects it from any kind of physical shock. And then second function is that it refracts light, refraction of light. Now the second one, it is the vitreous chamber. It is the largest chamber of the eye, and it is filled with a transparent jelly-like substance. And this transparent jelly-like substance or a fluid, it is known as the vitreous humor. Vitreous humor, it is also having two functions. First, it helps in keeping the shape of the eyeball, and second, it protects the retina layer, because most of the retina, it is connected with this vitreous chamber. So it protects the retina and its nerve ending. So it is all about the different parts of our eye. Now students, our next topic is how do we see? How do we see? Now there are mainly four major steps in seeing an object. First is known as the entry of light rays. Second one is called focusing of image. Third one is called nerve impulse produced in retina transmitted to brain. And fourth one is brain interprets. Now students, you can see here first the light rays. Here in this diagram you can see the light rays from the outside, they get entered in our eyes through the transparent structures. Which are these transparent structures? First is known as the conjunctiva, second one is known as the cornea, third one is known as the aqueous chamber or aqueous humor, and fourth one is known as the lens, and after that there is vitreous humor. So through all these structures the light rays, they enter. Then focusing of image. How does this takes place? First, the curvature of this cornea. It converges the light rays to some extent. You can see that firstly the light rays, they are coming in straight line, and when they pass through this cornea, then they get converged to some extent. And further these light rays, they pass through the lens, and then the lens, it converges them further, and then both light rays, they get converged at one point of the retina, and then they get meet at one point of the retina, and it is at this point an image it is formed, which is an inverted and real image. Now when this image it is formed, then the light energy of this image, it produces some chemical changes in the sensitive cells. Sensitive cells means rod and cone cells of the retina. So these light energy of this image, it produces some chemical changes in the sensitive cells, and these changes, then they generate a nerve impulse. Then this nerve impulse, it travels through this optic nerve, and then this optic nerve, it reaches to the visual area of our brain. By this optic nerve, these nerve impulses, they leave the eyeball, and then they reach to the visual area of our brain, and then here they give the sensation of sight. Now when they reach to the visual area of our brain, then our brain, it interprets this image in many ways, and then we are able to see that image in the form of a upright real image. Okay students, so in this way we can see the object. Now students, there is one more point, that is known as the accommodation. What is accommodation? Accommodation means viewing objects in sharp focus. Means to see an object clearly, it is necessary that the image of that object, it should be in sharp focus in each eye. And this process of focusing the eye to see objects at different distances, it is called accommodation. And this accommodation, it is mainly brought about by a change in the curvature of the elastic lens, because our lens, it is elastic. So this accommodation, it is mainly brought about by a change in the curvature of the elastic lens. Change in the curvature of the elastic lens means sometimes our lens, it becomes thinner and sometimes it becomes thicker in order to see the objects respectively. Now students, here you can see, if we want to see the distant vision, means if we want to see the that one distant objects, then our lens, it becomes flattened or thinner. For seeing the distant objects, our lens, it becomes thinner. Thinner means it becomes flat. Here you can see the lens becomes flat. But if we want to see the near objects, then our lens, it becomes rounded, more rounded. More rounded means it becomes more convex, and in this way it becomes thicker. So thicker lens is needed to see the near objects, and thinner lens is needed to see the distant objects. Now in the normal conditions, what happened? in the normal conditions, our ciliary muscles, here you can see that these are the ciliary muscles. In the normal conditions, these ciliary muscles, they get relaxed. Now when they get relaxed, then this lens, it remains stretched by these ciliary muscles or the suspensory ligaments. Our lens, it gets stretched, and when it gets stretched, then it becomes less convex. Less convex means it becomes somewhat flat, and when it becomes flat, then it becomes thinner, and when it gets thinner, then we are able to see the distant objects. But if we have to see the nearby objects, then the ciliary muscles, they get contracted, and when they get contracted, then they pull the ciliary body somewhat forward, and in this way, when the ciliary body, here you can see that when the ciliary body, it comes somewhat forward, then the tension on the lens, it gets somewhat released, and when now the lens, it becomes somewhat loose, and on account of its elasticity, it becomes thinner and more rounded or convex. So in this way, we are able to see the nearby objects. Now students, we will discuss the light and dark adaptation. Light, and what do you mean by light and dark adaptation? Means when we people pass from a brightly lighted area to a dark room just like a cinema hall, means from the outside when we enter a cinema hall, then at once for some time we are not able to see any object. For some time we are not able to see any object, but slowly and slowly our vision, it gets improved, and we are able to see even in the dark. So this improvement, it is called the dark adaptation, and this dark adaptation, it is mainly due to the regeneration of the rhodopsin pigment of our eyes, because in the light, this rhodopsin pigment, it doesn't work out, it gets broken down, but when we entered in a dark room, then it starts regenerating, and then we are able to see even in dark. And when we are able to see in the dark, then students, you can see that our pupil, it also gets dilated. Means here you can see that this is the dim light, means a few light rays, they are entering in our eyes. So in order to regulate the amount of light, means in order to that making our eyes for the entrance of more and more light, this pupil, it gets widened, so that more and more light rays, they can enter in our eyes, and then we are able to see the object. Now students, when a person with dark adapted eyes, it moves to a brightly lighted area, means when we are coming out from the cinema hall to the outside, then in coming out of a cinema hall, then we will experience a dazzling effect for a short period, means our eyes, they will not open properly, but after a few seconds again we come back to our normal vision, and this one is known as the light adaptation. And this light adaptation, it is the reverse of the previous changes, means here the visual purple means the rhodopsin pigment of the rods, now it gets broken down, and the adopsin pigment, it starts regenerating, and our pupil, it gets constricted, means it gets narrow, so that less light it can enter in our eyes, and in this way the pupil, it regulates the amount of light, and we are able to see even in the dazzling light, even in the bright light. In this diagram, students, you can see that here I have already told you, it is a dim light, and it is a pupil. Now pupil, it gets dilated, and then more and more light, it can enter in our eyes. Here you can see the light rays, they are more means there is too much amount of light, and here the pupil, it gets constricted. So it is all about the light and dark adaptation. And color vision color vision, it is possible only through cones of the retina, because cones, they are only responsible for color vision. So color vision, it is only because of the cone cells. And at night time, why we people can't make out the difference between red, violet or purple flowers? Because at night time or on the moonlit night, our cone cells, they are not working, only the rod cells they are working, so we are not able to make out the difference between red, violet or purple flowers. So it is our today's topic. In our next topic, we will discuss the common defects of the eye, as well as we discuss our next sense organ, that is the ear. So up to that, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.